Meru. Hiji ni Kaaga TV, umenyo bwa Meru. Hiji ni Kaaga TV, umenyo bwa Meru.
Ibwaga sana mutagerio Kaaga TV arankwira tutongereria na ingi kathingata anaro twemtere cha mikumbune apa mikumbune na narua ntukwe naro kwira maroja karura jero jarura muta tukira tukigwatanira na mathomo mwanya mwanya jera janjiriru CBC na mantu ja kurigaria kioni ani ukanjiria muritwa gutegete erutere ne ruria na ndende ngi mwalimu mpategene muritwa tukira tugitanwa saindi mantu ja kioni giki untu kioni oni biji mbere twathoma na kibau mwalimu autatite mugongo lakini tukwena arua tukira tukimenya kuthoma na kioni kuga atia na tukwena arua tukagwatanira na mwalimu Njoroge kendethira gitwerecerera nkuruki maana ja kioni giki. Karibu sana mwalimu Njoroge. Haya, welcome. Asante. Thank you. Tuambie majina yako kamili, unaitwa nani? Ni introduce hii kipindi yetu. Hii ya kusoma na mambo ya Utuambie zaidi hii maneno ya kioo atiho watu unajua alikuwa anasoma na hii blackboard. Lakini tuambie zaidi ni aje umekuja na hii idea.
Okay, karibuni sana. Kwa majina naitwa Kaaga Njoroge. Mimi ni mwalimu hapa Mikombone the secondary school. Tuko hapa shule iko karibu na hospitali ya Mikombone, na kwa leo tumekuja ili tuweze kuangalia jinsi ya tunavyoweza kufundisha wanafunzi na njia mpya. Excuse me. Kitambo tulikuwa tunaandika na blackboard. Kwa hivyo kwa sababu wakati unaandika na blackboard, kama wanafunzi wako upande huu, lazima niangalie upande huu ili niweze kuandika. Lakini kwa sasa tumekuja na kioo ambacho niweza andika nikiwa pande hii na mwanafunzi aweze kufuatilia akiwa pande ile nyingine.
Thank you sana mwalimu Njoroge. Umefanya kazi mzuri. Kuleta hii kioo watu waanze kusoma vizuri. Wanafunzi unajua wako na challenge. CBC ilikuja na maneno ya kufagia. Mbeleni hatukuwa tunafagia. Tulikuwa tunarusha kila kitu. Unaona hii already yendi poa. Na niaje hiyo kitu niaje ulifikiria?
Kutoka wakati nilianza kuwa mwalimu in the year 2018, nimekuwa nikifanya utafiti when I'm free, when I'm not very busy. So like na ile kitu kimekuwa kipitia kwa mawazo yangu ni mambo gani tunaweza fanya ili tufanye mafunzo ama jinsi ya kusoma ikuwe more personal. So nimekuwa nikifanya research, I think this is the second year, ili nikaweza kufika mahali hapa, because shida ilikuwa wakati wanafunzi wameketi pale na mimi niko upande huu, kuna distance iko pale kwa sababu alafu pia wakati wanafunzi wako pale na mimi niko hapa na blackboard iko nyuma, unaona hiyo distance ambayo iko katikati ya mwanafunzi na ubao. Kwa hivyo hiyo distance ndio tuna reduce, kwa sababu sasa badala ya blackboard ikuwe nyuma ya mwalimu, sasa board imekuja katikati ya mwanafunzi na mwalimu.
Thank you sana. Ni unafanya kazi mzuri kutujuliza hii CBC yetu ya mapema. Unajua watu wengi wako wanajua CBC ni aji ita improve kwa kioo ati watu wanafanya kibao unatoka kwa hii blackboard. Unajua wanafunzi hucheza sana kwa class. Unaona watu wengi ukiwa unaangalia hivi kabla mwalimu angalia zaidi wanafunzi bali wamekaa, unakuta kila mtu anachuna mwingine, unakuta yani wako pamoja. Hii kitu itasaidia wanafunzi wengi. Sasa tunataka utuelezee tutaanza na subject gani?
Tuko na mafunzo ambayo tumeyapanga kwa leo. Leo ndio siku yetu ya kwanza ya kurekodi haya mafunzo. Kwa hivyo tuko na mafunzo kadhaa. Tuko na funzo ya CRE, mafunzo ya chemistry, ya mathematics, ya business studies na ya Kiingereza pia. Lakini kwa sasa tutaanza na somo la hesabu ambalo tutafundishwa na mwalimu ambaye anaitwa Madam Jacinta kutoka Kaaga hearing impaired. So stay tuned. Tutaendelea.
Sana mutagerio Kaaga TV.
Kaaga TV, umenyo bwa Meru. nĩ Garo TV, ũmenyo bwa Iji nĩ Garo TV, ũmenyo bwa Meru. Iji nĩ Garo TV bwa Meru. Iji nĩ Garo ũmenyo.
Good morning, class. You are well? Same, I'm fine. Today, in our math lesson, today we will learn how to change or to convert kilometers to meters. But first, can you remember yesterday what we learned about converting centimeters to meters? We said 1 meter is equals 100 centimeters. Good. And same the other way, 100 centimeters is the same as 1 meter. Today we will change 1 kilometer is equals 1,000 meters. Now you can see here 1 kilometer is the same as 1,000 meters. Now example Jane, girl Jane. You know how to sign name Jane. Jane walked, she walked 1 kilometers. How many meters are there? There in 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. What about if she walked 5 kilometers? How many meters? 5 kilometers is equals how many meters? How will we work? We will say 5 times 1,000 is equals what? Now, who can multiply 5 and 1,000? Yes. If we multiply 5 by 1,000, we get 5,000. Now, we say 5 times 1,000 is equals 5,000 meters. Good. Now, another question. We have another boy walking 4 kilometers and 250 meters. How many meters are there? We have one boy walking 4 kilometers and 250 meters. Now, who will tell us how we will work this one? Remember, we say 1 kilometer is the same as 1,000 meters. So again, we will multiply 4 kilometers. Then we add 250 meters. So we work 4 times 1,000. Then these are meters. Then we add 250 meters. We say here plus. This one is we multiply, and here we add 250 meters. 4 we multiply with 1,000. Here we get 4,000 meters. Then plus 250. We can hand them downwards. You know how to arrange with place value. We say 4,000 plus 250. So we add 0 plus 0, we get 0. 0 plus 5, we get 5. 0 plus 2, we get 2. Then 4. So our answer here, this boy walked 4,250 meters. Now, I will give you small work to work in your books. Now, you change, I want you to change 3 kilometers to meters. And remember, our school is Kaaga Dev. And our lesson will end now. Then we will be back with CRE after short time. Thank you.
Iji TV umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji TV umenyo bwa Ameru. Meru TV umenyo bwa Ameru. Meru TV Ameru. Meru TV Meru. Iji ni Meru. Meru TV umenyo bwa Ameru. Meru TV bwa Ameru. Iji niga umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji ni umenyo Meru. Iji Meru TV umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji TV bwa Ameru. Iji Meru bwa Ameru. Iji Meru TV umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Meru TV umenyo Meru. Iji Meru umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji TV umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji TV bwa Ameru. Iji Meru TV umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Meru TV umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Meru
So let us have examples of these adverbs in sentences. For instance, number 1, you can talk of the girl walked slowly. So the girl walked slowly. So you have already started by saying that an adverb is the one that modifies verbs. So first look for the what? For the verb from the sentence. Our verb here is walked. They modify verbs. So the verb being walked, how did the girl do the walking? Was it slowly? Was it fast? So now our adverb here will be slowly. Thus the one slowly modifies the verb walked. So we can also have another example using the same, another one from these examples, yesterday. So we can have our sentence number 2 as the teacher arrived yesterday. The teacher arrived yesterday. So the verb here is arrived. So it explains when, yesterday. So yesterday is also another example of adverb. So now let us go to number 2, which is you should be able to identify. We have already done the identifying of verbs in different sentences, and now our final objective is you should also be able to illustrate different types of adverbs. So let us start with adverbs of manner. So the category here is manner. So adverbs of manner, they tells us how an action happens or will happen. So, for example, you can say the teacher spoke loudly. So, how did the teacher speak loudly? What manner? Loud. Number 2, we can have a different example. The boy spoke calmly. So, what manner? How did he speak calmly? So, calmly is an example of adverb which belongs to the category adverb of manner. And now I think we should proceed to the category number 2, which is adverb of time. So, of course, as the word here implies, time. Adverbs of time, they tell us when the action was done. So, for example, she arrived yesterday. So, yesterday answers the question when. When did she arrive? Yesterday. So, a different example . will start reading at 1 p.m. When? At 1 p.m. Or we can also have a different example. The teacher will be teaching English in the evening. So evening is another example of an adverb of time. It explains when will the teaching be taking place. So I think we will head our lesson here and we shall proceed in the next lesson. So as I began by telling you, my name is Agnes. I am from Upper Mikobone Day Secondary School, Meru County. Thank you very much.
Iji Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Iji Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Meru. TV bwa Meru. Iji Nig umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Meru. Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Nig bwa Meru. Umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Nig umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Nigaro TV bwa Iji TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Nigaro TV Iji Nig umenyo bwa Meru. Iji TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Nig umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Nigaro umenyo bwa Iji Nigaro TV bwa Iji Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Iji Nigaro TV bwa Meru.
Good morning, learners. Welcome to our class lesson. This is chemistry lesson. And in this chemistry lesson, we'll be looking at the Solvay process. That is under carbon and some of its compounds. So we look at the Solvay process. Solvay process. So in Solvay process, this is the large scale manufacture of sodium carbonate and sodium hydrogen carbonate. We'll start by looking at the raw materials. Raw materials. And we have the following raw materials. One of them is calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate. That is limestone. Number two is sodium chloride. Sodium chloride, which is called the brine. Number three is coke. We'll see what happens to the coke in the limestone kiln. Number four is ammonia. Ammonia. So learners, we have four raw materials that are required in the Solvay process. That is calcium carbonate, sodium chloride, coke, and ammonia. So these raw materials, where do we get them? For example, the ammonia, we get this one from Haber process. We get ammonia from Haber process. That is large scale manufacture of ammonia. So in these ones, we have the two, that is calcium carbonate and the coke. They are the ones that are going to give us the carbon dioxide gas. So when calcium carbonate is heated in the limestone kiln, calcium carbonate in its solid form, it is heated in the limestone kiln to form calcium oxide in its solid form plus carbon dioxide gas. We will see where this carbon dioxide will be required in the Solvay process.
Then we have also coke, which is carbon. It will react with oxygen gas in the limestone kiln to form the same carbon 4 oxide gas. So learners, you can see that calcium carbonate and the coke, they have given us carbon 4 oxide both. So this carbon 4 oxide gas is going to react in the carbonator. We'll see what happens there when we go there. Then we have the calcium oxide which has been formed here. The calcium oxide is slaked. Calcium oxide, solid, it is slaked. To slake is to combine. It is combined with the water in liquid form. So when it is slaked with water, it will form the calcium hydroxide, which is a solution. So in this case, we have these other raw materials. We have other raw materials that have not reacted there, and they are going all of them to react in the carbonator. We have now the calcium carbonate, it has given us carbon 4 oxide gas. Coke, it has also given us carbon 4 oxide gas, but we are left with the sodium chloride and ammonia. So all these raw materials will be combined together in the carbonator, where we have the ammonia gas. Ammonia gas combines with the carbon 4 oxide gas and the water which is produced in the system. So maybe learners are wondering where we are getting this water from, and it is not part of the raw materials. So this water is produced within the system of the Solvay process. So in this case, we have these ones. When they react, that is ammonia, carbon 4 oxide, and water, they result to formation of ammonium hydrogen, the ammonium hydrogen carbonate, which is a solution. So now we have the ammonium hydrogen carbonate in a solution form. Now we react with the remaining raw material, which is sodium chloride, that is brine, sodium chloride, a solution. Then it forms sodium hydrogen carbonate in a solid form. It forms crystals at low temperatures, and then plus ammonium chloride. So these two, what happens to these two now in the Solvay process? They are filtered. They undergo the process of filtration to separate them. They are filtered to separate them. So this sodium hydrogen carbonate, because it solidifies at low temperatures, it is going to form crystals. Then we have the ammonium chloride, which is a solution. So the sodium hydrogen carbonate now, sodium hydrogen carbonate moves to the roaster, where it is roasted or heated to form, it is eaten to form sodium carbonate. It will form sodium carbonate in a solid form, plus carbon 4 oxide gas and water. So we have the sodium carbonate that we wanted to produce through Solvay process, but we have two things here which we are supposed to get rid of. These two, carbon 4 oxide and water, they are recycled back in the system. Then we are remaining here with ammonium chloride. What is going to happen to ammonium chloride? Somewhere we select calcium oxide with the water to form calcium hydroxide. So this ammonium chloride will now react with the calcium hydroxide. So we have ammonium chloride in aqueous form react with the calcium hydroxide solution. Then it will form, this is a solution, it will form calcium chloride, which is in solid form, plus ammonia gas, and water. So these two, the ammonia gas and water, they are again recycled. They are again recycled. So we have calcium chloride here, which is the only byproduct which is not recycled in this process. So this calcium chloride is not recycled in the process, but it has a wide range of uses. So mostly there are questions whereby you are told to name one byproduct which is not recycled in the Solvay process. Which one is that, learners? It is calcium chloride. All these other byproducts, ammonia, water, carbon 4 oxide, they are recycled in the Solvay process. And that is why we say that Solvay process is one of the most efficient processes that we have in chemistry. Reason being, most of the raw materials are recycled, and they are cheap. They are readily available. So also, this Solvay process does not require external source of heat. The heat which is required here, it is produced within the system, And that is why we say that the carbonator, where most of the reactions are taking place, is supposed to be cooled regularly. How do we cool the carbonator regularly? This is by making sure that there is a flow of the ammonium brine in the carbonator. Now, because we have prepared the sodium carbonate here, why is it so important? What are some of the uses of sodium carbonate? So we have the uses of sodium carbonate. So sodium carbonate, mostly it is used in glass making. Number two, it is also used in paper industries. Remember, we have these industries in our country, so they require the glasses. Also, we require papers in our glasses. So these ones, one of the raw materials which is used in making of these papers, it is sodium carbonate. Learners, also sodium carbonate can be used in water softening. Learners, you remember that we have the hand water and the soft water. So hand water, sometimes we soften it by use of sodium carbonate. I think you are getting what we are meaning here. We have number 4. We have another use of sodium carbonate. It is also used in making of detergent. You know what the detergent are, learners. Now, these are some of the uses. Of course, we have other uses of sodium carbonate. So what I would like you to do when you retire, I would like you, learners, you look at some of the uses of calcium carbonate, because we have seen that calcium carbonate is one of the byproduct which is not recycled in this system. And this marks the end of our chemistry lesson. Until we meet again, as I started by saying, I'm Mr. Gitonga Mutwiri from Upper Mikombone Day Secondary School. Thank you so much.
Umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV. Umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji TV. Umenyo Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV. Umenyo. Iji Nigaro TV. Umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV. Umenyo Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV. Umenyo Ameru. Iji Nigaro Umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV. Umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV. Umenyo. Iji Nigaro bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV. Umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV. Umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV bwa Ameru. Umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Umenyo bwa Iji Umenyo Ameru. Iji Nigaro Umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji TV. Umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV. Umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji.
Okay, my name is from Kaaga School for the hearing impaired. I'll take you through a CRE lesson. CRE lesson, grade 4. Grade 4. Today, we will learn a story from the Bible, from the book of Judges, chapter 14, verses 4 to 9. The story is about Samson killing a lion. Okay, you can see here beside Samson kills a lion. Okay, first I'll tell you a story. One day, this young man, Samson, he was walking with his father and mother. As they were walking, Samson heard a lion roaring. Roaring is the sound that a lion makes. As they were walking, Samson looked back and he saw a lion running towards him. Then this man, Samson, he looked, and the Holy Spirit gave him power. Samson, he caught the lion and he killed him. He tore him with his hands. Now, Samson did not fear, but he caught the lion and he killed the lion. Then, after a few days, Samson returned and he started looking for the. Samson took some honey, he ate, and he carried other honey to the parents. But Samson did not tell the parents where he got the honey. Now, from this story, what do we learn from the story? Lessons what we learn from the story. Number 1, God gives power. Now, number 1. First, what we learn from the story. Number 1, God gives power. From the story, the time Samson saw the lion, he did not fear, but God gave him power to kill the lion. Number 2, God gives us strength. Again, Samson did not fear the lion. Lion is strong and very bad. If you are caught by a lion, it can kill you fast. But Samson did not fear. Number 3, what we learn from the story. Trusting God all the time. Samson trusted God that he will help him to kill the lion. Number 4, God changes problems or hard times to blessings, because the time Samson returned to the dead lion, he saw bees and honey. He ate the honey. So let's always trust God. God gives us good things. God gives us blessings as he blessed Samson with a name. Thank you. This is the end of our lesson, and we will continue after a short time. Thank you.
Iji TV umenyo bwa Kaaga TV bwa Meru. Iji Kaaga TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Kaaga TV Meru. Iji Kaaga bwa Meru. Iji Kaaga TV bwa Meru. Iji Kaaga umenyo bwa Meru. Iji TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Kaaga TV umenyo bwa. Iji Kaaga TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Kaaga TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Kaaga TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Kaaga TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji umenyo bwa. Iji Kaaga bwa Meru. Iji umenyo bwa Meru. Kaaga TV umenyo Meru. Iji.
Good morning, learners. My name is Madam Faith Mutai. I'm an English teacher at Upper Mekombone Day Secondary School. And in today's lesson, we are going to learn oral literature. First, we will begin by defining what oral literature is, and then nonverbal cues that are used in oral literature, and state the functions of oral literature. So oral literature is a performed art that uses the word of mouth as a media of communication. You must say it is performed and it is art, and it is using a word as a media of communication. So in oral literature, we have the nonverbal cues that help us during performance. Nonverbal cues are the things that we do that will enable us in performing oral literature. These nonverbal cues include gestures, they include body movement, facial expression, mimicry, dramatization, tone variation, etc. Gestures is whereby you're using your mouth to your hands to communicate. Body movement involves also the use of your body. For example, you can raise your hand, you can wave. Facial expression is your facial. If it's something that you're happy, you smile. If it's something that you're sad, you frown your face. And then mimicry is whereby you mimic whatever something has been said. For example, a genre of oral literature like narrative, for example, the stories of Kaaga Sungura, you can mimic whatever the Sungura is saying, like, let's go and fetch water. Yeah, and fetch water, like that, you mimic. Dramatization is whereby you dramatize whatever is happening. Tone variation, it depends with whatever you're saying. If, for example, you're crying, there's a certain way your tone changes. If you're happy, there's a certain way that your tone varies. Now, from there, we'll tackle on functions of oral literature. Functions of oral literature. We have various functions of oral literature, or what are the importance of studying oral literature? When you study oral literature, it helps in national building, integration. National integration. National integration is whereby people of different cultures come and learn about a certain culture of a certain people, and then we are able to understand. Through oral literature, when I learn a culture of, for example, the Maasai, and I go to the Maasai land, I'll be able to live with them with peace and harmony. Number 2, we have education and transmission of values. Whenever I study a certain genre of oral literature, I'm able to know the vices and the virtues in the society. And I'll be able to identify that vices are mocked and punished in a societal setup, while the virtues are appreciated. And then, through oral literature, still in education, we're able to know the things that we're supposed to do and the things that we're not supposed to do. Number 3, entertainment. Entertainment is whereby people, for example, in a school setup, they come together and form maybe a drama club, and that drama clubs goes and they have plays, songs, they perform music, they'll do different genres of oral literature. And when we go and watch those genres of oral literature in drama theaters, national theaters, we're able to be entertained. And then number 4, economic empowerment. Economic empowerment comes in when I learn about oral literature, especially these set books that we learn in form 2, 3, and 4, we are able to become empowered in such a way that through theaters that come to perform in school, these various set books. For example, we have the National Theatre, we also have Mabingwa theatres that come and perform those set books in school setups. Those people are paid, and through that pay, at least somebody is able to maybe boost himself or herself. You can even invest in oral literature, whereby you write plays, you write scripts that are used in drama festivals in secondary and primary levels. That is how oral literature makes us become economically empowered. Number 5, recreation. Recreation is all about pleasures that we get. Whenever we go at home, especially during the old traditional society, even now in modern traditional society, and we are idle, we don't have anything to do in our houses. Instead of using your phone, you can just sit down and start telling, narrating stories, making jokes amongst yourself, giving stories about different things that happened in the past. And then you can even read all these. We have reading sessions in oral narratives, oral literature, sorry. So you can actually be pleasured through oral literature. Number 6, cultural understanding. Cultural understanding. Cultural understanding and national integration is almost the same. When I read different books in the National Archives, and especially not even in the archives, whenever I'm reading a set book, I'm able to understand how different community, how people live in different communities. For example, when I read about Ngugi wa Thiong'o's book or Mzee Jomo Kenyatta's book, I'm able to see how the people of Gikuyu were living. When I read the book, for example, The River and the Source, I'll be able to see how the people from the lake region live, and I'll understand their cultures depending on those books that have been written by writers. Those are the things that I wanted to cover in today's lesson. We've learned what oral literature is. We've said it is a performed art, specifically performed. It requires performance. We've said the nonverbal cues that are used in oral literature and the functions of oral literature. And with that, we come to the end of our lesson. I was your teacher, Madam Faith. Thank you.
Iji Niga TV Umenyo Bwa Am Iji Nigaro TV Umenyo Iji Nigaro TV Bwa Meru Iji Umenyo Bwa Meru Iji Nigaro TV Umenyo Meru Iji Nigaro TV Umenyo Iji Nigaro TV Umenyo Bwa Meru Iji Nigaro Umenyo Bwa Meru Iji Nigaro Bwa Meru Iji Nigaro TV Bwa Meru Iji Nigaro Umenyo Bwa Meru Nigaro TV Umenyo Iji Nigaro TV Umenyo Bwa Meru Iji Nigaro TV Umenyo Bwa Iji Nigaro TV Meru Iji Nigaro TV Umenyo Bwa Iji Nigaro Umenyo Bwa Meru Iji Nigaro TV Bwa Meru Iji Nigaro TV Meru Nigaro TV Meru Iji TV Umenyo Bwa Nigaro TV Umenyo Bwa Meru Iji TV Umenyo Bwa Iji Bwa Meru Iji Nigaro Umenyo Bwa Meru Iji Nigaro TV Umenyo Bwa Meru Nigaro TV Bwa Meru Iji Nigaro TV Umenyo Meru Iji Nigaro Umenyo Bwa.
Alright, welcome learners to yet another episode of the Glass Class. We're coming live from the Glass Class studios from Upper Mikobonde in the secondary school. And today we shall be talking about, we shall be covering business studies. We shall be examining a topic in Form 3 on demand and supply. And so for today, we only talk about demand. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to define what is demand, number one. Number two, you should be able to derive the demand curve. And number three, you should be able, so you're saying number one, you should be able to define demand. Number two, we are saying you need to be able to derive the demand curve. And number three, we are saying you should be able to explain shift and movement along the curve. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Now, what is demand? What is demand? Demand is two things. One, demand is the quantities that the consumers are two things. One, so we are saying the quantities that consumers are two things. One, willing and able to buy. So demand is driven by two things running at the same time. One, the consumer must be willing to buy, that is number one, and number two, they must be able to buy. So because we can have a situation where someone is willing but not able, or somebody is able but they are not willing. And so let's take, for instance, let's assume that it's a season for kales, sukuma wiki. And so let's create a table here. So on one side we are going to say we have the price, and then we have the quantity. In fact, instead of kales, let's use bread because that's what we consume a lot. So let's create a table here. Now, do we agree that if the price of bread is low, we buy more? If the price of bread is high, then we buy less. So let's assume if the price of bread goes to about 100 shillings, let's extend it a little bit here. So, in fact, let's start on the lower side. So we're 100, then we go to 75, then we go to 50, and then we go to 40, and then we go to 30. Now, if the price of bread, today the price of bread is around 70. If they were to lower the price of bread to around 30, the person who was taking one could be taking two. So, looking at the population, we could say a population may take like 100 loaves of bread because the cost is low. Now, as the price increases, because the income is the same, they will not be able to buy more because the income is consistent. So they may buy something like 80. It comes down. Now, as the price of bread increases to 50 bob, they'll buy even less because their income is still the same. So let's say they buy around 60. Now, currently the price of bread is around 70. So it would mean that so long as their salary has not increased, when the price goes up and your salary is the same, so you'll be able to buy even less. So let's say they even buy less, so you're about 50. Now, if the price of bread now goes to 100 shillings and the salary is the same, what is going to happen? They buy even less. So let's say around 30. So now, let's see how the graph would look like. Let's see how the graph would look like. Okay, so this is what? So remember, you need to show the direction here, and then always put a 0 there. Okay, so on this side we have price, so we put a P there, and on this axis we have a Q there. So let's use a standard scale. So let's say that is 20, 40, this is 60, 80, and 100. Okay, so this is 20, this is 40, this is what? This is 60,
This is 80 and this is what? This is 100. Excellent, excellent. So the same scale, we would use it on this side. So this becomes what? 20, 40, 60, 80, let's say 100 there. So mine is not drawn to scale. But anyway, 20, 40, 60, 60, and then 80. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Okay. Now, when the price is 100, they only buy 30 loaves. So 30 is here. Remember, this is quantity. So 30 somewhere there. Okay. So when the price is 75, so the price goes up to around 75, they buy more. So they buy 50. So 75, we have somewhere there. Okay. And then when the price is 50 shillings, which is somewhere here, then they buy 60, somewhere there. Okay. When the price is 40, price is 40, then they buy 80. So that is somewhere there. Excellent, excellent. Now, when the price goes all the way to 30 shillings, now they are even buying more. So 30 should be here. So 30 is here. So 100 is there. Excellent. Now, I want you to see how the graph looks like. So the graph, so in fact, we can label this and say 0 demand. So we call it like that. Demand. So so we are calling it 0 because it's the initial graph. Now, excuse me. So the demand curve moves from the left to the right. It slants from the left to the right. Now, how do you explain movement along the demand curve? Now, the question about movement along the demand curve, you're supposed to say what is happening here. What is happening here? So let's start from here. So the explanation should be something like this. So pick a point. Say this point. Okay. So what is happening here? When the price is 30 bob, the quantities are 100. So explain what is happening here. Okay. Now this point is 40. When the price is 40, the quantities are 80. When the price now goes up to 50, the quantities are 60. So in other words, what we are saying, what is going on here, is that as the price increases, so remember we are supposed to answer the question about movement along the curve. So how do you explain movement? So we are saying, when you explain a movement, you just pick points and then summarize it. So as the price increases, the quantity demanded decreases. As the price increases, the quantity decreases. Now, to the last point on our lesson today, let's assume this is our curve. Let's assume this is our curve, initial curve. Now, if we have another curve going this way, so we call this one D1, D2. We agree that the curve has moved to the left. Okay? So the curve has shifted to the left. So now the question would be, what has happened? Okay? So we need to explain a shift to the left. What does it mean? A shift to the left. Now, this is very important for you to understand, because remember we are moving along the x-axis. So if we are moving towards the left, what is happening here? Remember the values increase this way, and we are moving this way. The value increases this way, and we are moving this. So what does it mean? So the shift to the left means this way, meaning that the quantities are reducing. So the quantities are reducing. Okay? So a shift to the left means that we are moving towards 0, and so the quantities are reducing. Okay? Now, what about we have another curve, let's say call it D2 and D2. Okay? D2 and D2. All right. So what is happening? Now look, we are moving the curve
to the right. And what is happening here to the right? Okay, what is happening here? So the values are increasing as we go along the x-axis. So what can we say here? So let's put it there. Say shift to the right. So what is happening? What is happening if we move to the right? Remember, the values are increasing as we go towards the right. So what is happening here? Now we agree that the quantities are doing what? The quantities are increasing. And so whenever you are asked a question and you're told to explain the meaning of a shift to the right, have this in mind. So a question like this one, when you talk about a shift to the left, the question is about what is happening, what causes the quantities to reduce, the quantity demanded. Remember, it's demand. So the question is, what causes the quantities demanded to reduce? And a shift towards the right. The question therefore becomes, what is causing the quantities demanded to increase? And so that marks the end of our lesson on demand. The next lesson we shall be covering about, we shall be comparing the two, demand and supply, and to explain two concepts, which are about excess demand and excess supply. So that's the end for our lesson. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kaaga School. We'll continue after a short break.
Iji Meru TV Meru. Iji Meru TV Meru Iji Meru Iji Meru TV Meru Iji Meru Iji Meru TV Meru Iji Meru Iji TV Meru Iji Meru Iji TV Meru Meru TV Meru Iji Meru Meru Iji Meru Meru Iji Meru TV Meru Meru Iji Meru Meru Iji Meru 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 TV Meru Iji Meru Meru Iji Meru Meru TV Meru Iji Meru TV Meru Iji Meru TV.
Welcome back, guys. In today's lesson, we'll be learning about genres of oral narrative. In our previous lesson, we stated what oral literature is and said oral literature is a performed art that uses a word as a media of communication. So, if it is performed, what are these different or various types or genres of oral literature? One, we have oral narrative. We also have oral poetry. We have songs. We have riddles, we have tongue twisters, we have jokes and puns. But in today's lesson, we will focus on the genres of oral narrative. Those genres of oral narrative include trickster narrative, number two, Auger narratives. Number 3, dilemma narratives. Number 4, we have ideological or why narratives. Number 5, we have human tales. Number 6, we have myths. Number 7, we have legends. I'll begin by explaining each one of them. And the first one, I'll begin with trickster narrative. Trickster narratives are narratives that involve 2 or 3 characters. The first character must be a trickster, and the second one must be a dupe. So in trickster narratives, we have tricksters, and dupes. A trickster is a small animal that outwits the dupe. A trickster is an animal that is small and it is clever than the dupe. The dupe is a huge animal that is being maybe lied or being tricked by a trickster. For example, the story of hyena and hare, whereby you see the hyena and the hare went to a certain kingdom. They were living together. They were very great friends. And then the hare told the hyena, let's go and eat our mothers. And the hyena agreed and went and ate the mom, but the hare didn't. That is an example of a trickster narrative, whereby the trickster outwits the dupe. And then the second one is auger narratives. Auger narratives have evil characters. Augurs are evil beings. In auger, the augurs are evil. We have evil characters in augurs. Evil characters are the characters that maybe swallow people, they eat people. You get a narrative, the narrative is very enjoyable. It's about a beautiful girl. That girl was ate maybe by an ogre. Yeah, and in most cases, ogre narratives are evil. And then we have the dilemma tales. Dilemma tales are the tales that leave us with 2 answers that are hanged together. Like, we are not able to determine whatever to choose. It is like a dilemma. We are torn between 2. Should we choose this one or the other one? Those are the examples of dilemma narratives. The fourth one is ideological or why narratives. Why narratives? I give an example with the Tinga Tinga tales. Most Tinga Tinga tales were talking about why a giraffe has a long neck, why the leopard has dots, black dots in its body. For example, why a kangaroo jumps very high, or why does it have short legs? No, why hyenas have short legs and at the front and short legs at the back and long legs at the front. Those are the examples of why narratives. Why narratives? They just explain why something is the way we see it right now. And then we have myths. Myths are narratives that talk about myths. First and foremost, they're historical. They talk about different origins depending on different origins of natural phenomena. For example, the moon or the gods. Myths involve supernatural what? Myths involve supernatural beings. These supernatural beings stroke phenomenon. What is that phenomenon? Supernatural beings or supernatural beings, like for example God, or God, or the origin of death. Origin of death among a certain community. You can get an origin of death, like the people in a certain community, like for example the people of the Gikuyu, they made the god very annoyed, and or a story of how God sent the chameleon to go and tell the people that they will die. And then the chameleon was too slow, and the lizard decided to go and tell the people to distort the message. And the lizard reached the people first and told the people, but they do not will die. And when the chameleon was reaching the people, it was very hard for the chameleon to convince the people that you guys will not die. But through that narrative, it is a mythical narrative that we're able to know how a certain community, maybe the origin of death in a certain community. And the last one, we'll tackle about legends. Legends involve supernatural powers, whereby characters of legends are given supernatural powers. For example, a very nice story is the story of Luanda Magere. Luanda Magere was a legend. He was a legend who was he was a very powerful man. He had extraordinary powers. He would fight until the people of his society became, or they got independent. The people in that society, the fight that Luanda Magere did enabled the people of that society not to. They were not defeated in battles by the other communities. So those are legends. Legends and myths do contradict very much. You should understand that legends involve characters that have supernatural powers. They are given supernatural powers, like they are strong, they can fight, they are huge, they are abnormal. Those people they have supernatural powers. While myth, we have supernatural beings like God. We're able to know how certain phenomena came to be. Even in myths, we even have moons, the sun, the stars. Those are supernatural beings. Yeah, and with that, we come to the end of our lesson. In the next lesson, we will cover now the other genres of oral literature. We'll see the riddles, the jokes and puns. We'll also cover on jokes and puns, riddles, oral poetry, songs, and the other genres of oral literature. We come to the end of our lesson. Thank you for listening.
Iji Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo Meru. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo Meru. Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Meru. Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Iji Nigaro TV umenyo Meru. Iji Nigaro TV bwa Meru. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo Meru. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo.
Teacher Nancy from Upper Mikumbune Secondary, teaching theory. Today's lesson is on readership. Leadership and God's plan, and it's based on David and Solomon. And on the topic today, we are going to look at the leadership of the Israelites after they settled in Canaan. So after they had settled there, they aren't the leaders, but they were led by the judges. And some of these judges included Deborah, he had Gideon, Samson, and also Samuel, who was the last judge in Israel. So the main role of these judges were to settle the disputes the disputes, to settle the disputes among the Israelites, and also they were selected by God. So a time came where the leaders of Israel went to Samuel and demanded to have a king. So God was their invisible king, but here they demanded to have a king. And so Samuel tried to give them reasons against kingship, but they did not listen. They insisted on having a king. So we have the reasons why the Israelites demanded for a king. Why the Israelites for a king. One of the reasons why the Israelites demanded for a king is because they wanted a visible, not visible, but physical king. They could see and approach. So since God was their invisible king, they could not freely approach God and they could not see him. So they wanted someone that they would be free to approach and talk to. That is one of the reasons. The second reason is they wanted someone who would lead them to battles. Lead them to battles and bring back victory. So they had many enemies when they settled in Canaan. So they wanted a king that would lead them to the battles and also bring back victory. The third reason is that the sons of Samuel, that is Joel and Abijah, were corrupt. So they did not believe that these are the leaders that they wanted. So these sons of Samuel were corrupt, and so the people rejected them. But the people were wrong, because even if these people were corrupt, God would still have slavery. Then the fifth reason is that they wanted to be like their neighbors. They had settled in Canaan. They had neighbors who had kings, so they wanted to copy their of their neighbors. So these are some of the reasons why these people demanded for a king. But now there are other reasons that Samuel had given to them that were against the kingship. One of the reasons against kingship, so Samuel gave them the reasons why God was against kingship. One of the reasons is that a king would force their sons to work in the army. So since they wanted a king who would lead them in battles, their sons are the ones who are supposed to work in these armies. So it will not be optional for them, but the king would force them to join the army. The second reason is that the king would use their daughters. As servants in the palace, because the palace would also need the people to work there. So the king would use their children, their daughters, and also wives to work in the palace. Then the reason number 3 is that this showed that they had rejected God. as their supreme, invisible king. So, showing interest in having a physical king, shown that they had already rejected God, who was their king, and who they were a chosen nation. So God had chosen them for a reason, and there was that bond that was between them and God that was going to break after they had a king. So now we come to the end of our lesson today. Thank you for listening.
EGV umenyo bwa Meru. EGV umenyo bwa Meru. EGV niga umenyo bwa Meru. EGV umenyo bwa Meru. EGV umenyo bwa Meru. Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Meru. EG Nigaro TV. EG Nigaro bwa Meru. EG TV umenyo bwa Meru. EG Nigaro umenyo bwa Meru. EGTV umenyo bwa Meru. EG Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Meru. EG Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Meru. EG TV umenyo bwa Meru. EG Nigaro umenyo bwa Meru. Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Meru. EG TV umenyo bwa Meru.
Yes, today Nadia Wilson, I will be taking you in mathematics lesson today on angle property of circle. Angle properties of a circle. Now, on the angle property of a circle, we will discuss on the arc. What is an arc, segment, and a chord. Now we have arc. On circles we have arc, chord, and the segment. We have angle and the segment. And the segment. Now, what is an arc? An arc is any point on the circumference. Arc is any point on the circumference. Arc, you see, arc is any point on the circumference. Now, chord is a line. Chord, we can say chord is that line, is a line joining two point on a circumference. That is, for example, if I have a circle like this one, and now I have this point and this point. Now I have a line joining this point. Let's call it line AB. Now line AB is a chord. Now again, if I have I can say this point is point M. Now I can say arc. I can say AMB is an arc. AMB is an arc. is an arc. It's an arc. No, when I'm discussing on the angle properties of a circle, I will try to discuss what I will try to understand arc, chord, and no. When I talk of a segment, let me define a segment. A segment is those 2 points. When a chord divides a circle into 2. Sini imetoka. Wacha malize. Nipe hapo kandasta bwana.
Iji niga umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Nigaro TV. Umenyo bwa Nigaro nyo bwa Meru. Iji Nigaro. Iji
Umetoka kanisa. Hiyo ndio nilikuwa nimesahau ondieki. Welcome learners to our class session. I'll be taking you through mathematics. I'm Mr. But naanzi upya tena.
Iji Nigaro umenyo Meru.
Apologies our learners.
Iji Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji TV umenyo bwa Meru. Nigaro TV umenyo Meru. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo. Iji Nigaro bwa Meru. TV umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo Nigaro TV bwa Ameru. Iji Meru. Iji Nigaro TV bwa Ameru. Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Ameru. Umenyo bwa Ameru. TV Ameru. Iji ni umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV umenyo Nigaro TV umenyo bwa Ameru. TV umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV Ameru. Iji Nigaro TV. Iji Nigaro TV.
Apology all learners for technology inch. Now, welcome to our class. I'll be taking you through mathematics for today. In our studio in Apa Bekubone. Now, I'll be taking you on angles properties. Angle properties of a circle. This is a form 2. This is a form 2 work, or this is a form 2 concept. Now, on angle property in form 2, we have to understand three words, that is arc, chord, and the segment. Now, I will start by explaining what an arc is, what a chord is, and what a segment. Arc is very simple. Is any point on the circumference. That is what we call arc. Now, chord is a line. I can call it in a simpler way. I can say chord is a line joining 2 points on the circumference. Joining 2 points on the circumference. Now, that is our chord. When I talk of a chord, take for example, I have a circle like this one. Now, if I have a line like this one, that is line AB, I say my chord, like AB is a chord. I say AB is a chord of a circle. Now, when I talk of a segment, I talk of when a line, when a chord, we say a chord divides a circle into two parts. Now, in these two parts, we have a minor segment. We have a minor segment, and a major segment. Now, when we talk of a minor segment, I want to explain using a circle here what a minor segment and what a major segment. If I have a circle like this one, now I have a chord. Let's still call this chord P, I call it called the P and the Q. Now, my I call this X and the Y. No, my X here become a major segment, No, that is the large part of the circle. When they divide that circle into two parts, that is what we call a major segment. Then Y I call it a minor segment. A minor segment is the smaller part of the circle when that chord divides the circle. Now, I will just go and explain now on angle. Let me explain angle at the center, and the circumference, of a circle. I will start by explaining using a diagram, using my circle here. Now I have an angle here. There is an angle here. I can call this one A. I call this one B. And the same, I have another angle at the circumference. Now this point, when I talk of angle sustained, this I call this one. This one my called AB. I say called AB has sustained the an angle to the center and to the circumference. Now, if I have my circumference, if I have this being my diagram, I have this one being my diagram, I can call this my angle X, and I can call this my angle Y. Now, in a proper drawing, you find that this angle Y, is a half of angle X. We say angle sustained at the center is twice the angle sustained sustained by the same chord to the circumference. That is I can say that is my angle X, my angle Y is equivalent to 2x. If this angle is 40, for example, if this angle is 40, if I say let my X to be 40, that means my angle Y to be 40 degrees, that means my angle Y will be 2 times 40, which will be 80 degrees. That will be 80 degrees. Now I can still explain another one concept. Angles now, if you have this now is a chord, but this chord here is not dividing the circle at the center. If now the line that divides the circle at the center, we call it diameter. Still, that diameter can sustain an angle to the circumference. Allow me to just explain about the diameter. Now, if I have what I mean, if I have a circle like this one, and this one is a diameter, and this one is a diameter, still this diameter can sustain an angle to the circumference. It will sustain an angle to the circumference like this one. We say any angle that if a line sustains an angle to the circumference, that we call it as we say it as sustained. Now this angle will be 90 degrees. We say angles an angle sustained. We say an angle sustained by the diameter to the circumference is 90 degrees. Even if this diameter, this one is diameter, even if this diameter sustains an angle to any point on the circumference, all these angles will be 90 degrees. All these angles will be 90 degrees if they are being sustained by the diameter. If our angle is sustained by a diameter, I say my line XP is a diameter. Any angle sustained by the diameter to the circumference, we say it is 90 degrees. Now, another concept that I can just explain very fast. If we have again a circle like this one, and we have our chord, let's have chord PQ. PQ, it is sustaining an angle to the circumference. We say an angle as sustained by a chord to the circumference is all angles sustained by the chord to the circumference are equal. All these angles that has been sustained by chord PQ to the circumference, you can see this chord PQ as sustaining this angle. I can call this one U, I can call this one W, and I can call this one X. I will say angle X is equal to angle W and is equal to angle U. Now, all angles that has been sustained by the same chord to the circumference are always equal. Now, I can have just a single example. Here. I will have just one example here explaining my concept. Just a minute. Now, if I have, an example like this one, if I have an example, I have this one being my circle here. Now, I have this one to be a diameter. Now, I can call it diameter AB. This diameter is sustaining an angle here. Then, I can have now this one here. Then, I can also complete here. I see, if I'm being, automatically I know this, the angle here, I can call this X and Y. Now I will say AYB, angle AYB will be 90 degrees because it has been sustained by the diameter to the circumference. If I am being given this angle, let's say angle YAB to be 40. No, if angle YAB is 40, that means this angle has been sustained by chord YB. That means even the angle here, if this angle is 40, even the angle here will be automatically be 40 degrees. Will be automatically be 40 degrees because now I say angle YX, I say angle YXB is 14 degrees with the reason that the angle sustained by the same chord to the circumference is the same. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Iji niga bwa amiru. Iji vi umenyo bwa amiru. Iji niga menyo bwa amiru. Iji niga roti umenyo bwa amiru. Iji niga roti menyo bwa amiru. Iji Negaro Meru. Iro TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji Negaro TV umenyo. Iji Negaro TV umenyo bwa Meru. Umenyo bwa Meru. Iji TV nyo bwa Meru. Aro TV umenyo bwa Meru. Iji TV umenyo bwa Iji Negaro TV Umenyo bwa Ameru. Kaaga TV. Umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji ni umenyo bwa Ameru. Kaaga TV. Umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji ni Kaaga TV. Umenyo bwa Ameru. Iji vi umenyo. Iji TV bwa Ameru. Iji umenyo bwa.
Good evening, learners. Welcome to our class session. My name is Mr. Ondieki. I'm going to take you through biology lesson. And today we're going to discuss about support. And from our previous lesson, we were discussing about skeleton, that is the human skeleton, where we said that the human skeleton is made up of two main parts. We have the axial skeleton, and then we have appendicular skeleton. So in our last class, we discussed about the axial skeleton, where we said it's made up of all the bones which are found on the vertebral column. In human beings, we have 33 vertebrae, which is divided into five types of vertebrae. So in connection to what we discussed in our last lesson, so today I want us to have a look at what you call the appendicular skeleton. So remember, appendicular skeleton is the one which is going to be connected to the axial skeleton. So appendicular skeleton is made up of two main parts. We have what you call the guidos. And guidos, we have two types. We have the pectoral guido. We also have the pelvic guido. Then the second part of the appendicular skeleton is the limbs. And in the limbs, we have two categories. We have what you call the forelimbs and the hind limbs. So in our session today, because we discussed about the guidos, the pectoral guido, which we said it's made up of two types of bones. We have what you call the scapula, and then we have the clavicle. That is what we discussed in our last session. For today, we are going to discuss about the limbs, more so the forelimbs. So in our today's lesson, we are going to have a look at the bones which make up the upper part of the hand. So we have the humerus, we have the ulna, and radius. And this is what is going to form our lesson today, those two types of bones. And then we are going to see how these two types of bones are going to articulate with the pectoral guido. Because remember, we said the pectoral guido is found on the anterior part of our body, where we said when they are going to join, that is the pectoral guido, which is made up of the scapula and the clavicle. When they are going to join, because the clavicle is going to connect from the shoulder bone to the sternum, and then we are going to have the scapula on the back side, which is going to connect to the vertebrae column. So for today, we shall have a look at those two, and then we shall see how they are going to articulate together with the scapula. So we are going to start with the humerus. Sorry for that, the humerus. So this is the humerus. The humerus is made up of various parts. We have the shaft of the humerus, and remember, you have to be very specific because different bones have different shaft. So that is why you have to say that this is the shaft for the humerus. And then we have the head. The head of the humerus is what is going to articulate with the scapula. From our last session, this is what we call the scapula. So on the upper side, they are going to connect, or they are going to articulate. After articulating, they are going to form what you call ball and socket joint. So this ball and socket joint is the one which is going to allow the hand to rotate at 360 degrees. So that is what allows you to rotate your arm at 360 degrees. Then, apart from that, we also have what you call the groove. We have two types of groove. We have the one which is going to articulate with the ulna and radius. We're going to see that. And then we also have what you call the tuberosities. We have the greater tuberosities, and then on the top side, we have the radius. This is what you call the radius. On the lower side, we have what you call the ulna. Ulna extends to form what you call the olecranon process. Then you can see we have a space here, or a cavity here. This is what you call the sigmoid notch, which is going to allow the trochlea or the condyles of the humerus to articulate with the glenoid cavity of the humerus, so of the radius and the ulna. So these are how they are going to articulate. Once they articulate at that, they are going to form what you call the hinge joint, which is going to allow our hand to stretch at a degree of 180. Unlike the ball and socket joint, which is going to allow, because of having the cavity and also the head, which is going to allow the this part to rotate at 360. For this one, it's going to rotate at 180 because of that sigmoid notch. Then we have the olecranon process, which is going to allow attachment of muscles of our hands. So they are going to articulate at that point. Then we are going to have, or it's going to allow your arm to stretch at that 180 degrees. Then, so together, this is how these three bones are going to articulate. So we have the scapula, the humerus, we have the ulna and the radius, and then on this side now we are going to have the wrist. This is where the wrist of our hand is going to be connected, which we said in mammals. Mammals have what you call pentadactyl limbs, meaning they have 5 digits or 5 fingers. So once they articulate now, that is how they are going to articulate, because of this, what you call the glenoid cavity of the scapula, which is going to allow the head of the humerus to articulate, and then it's going to form that ball and socket joint. So those are the bones that make the forelimb. In our next session, we are going to have a look at the hind limbs. So for today, we are going to stop there. Thank you for your time.
Iji ni Meru TV nyo bwa Meru. Iji vi umenyo bwa Meru. Iji ni Meru bwa Meru. Iji ni Garo TV. Iji ni Garo TV Meru. Iji ni Garo TV bwa Meru. Iji ni Garo bwa Meru. Iji ni Garo bwa Meru. Iji ni Garo TV bwa Meru. Iji ni Garo TV bwa Meru. Iji ni Garo TV bwa Meru. Iji Garo TV bwa ni Garo TV bwa Meru. Iji ni Garo bwa Meru. Iji ni Garo TV bwa Meru. Iji ni Garo TV bwa Meru. Ni Garo TV bwa Meru. Iji ni bwa Meru. Iji ni Garo TV bwa Meru. Iji TV bwa Meru. Iji TV bwa Meru.
Sana mutagerio Garo TV are nkwira tutongeire na ingi kadingata na naru iro twarekirire gipindi giaku kia menya umenyithwe uture ugimarite gukurukira kumenya mantu yejo ngoja kuthoma kithomo kia gukurukira kioni ani untu ntira ije kethira kioni igintu gia kawaida kuthoma nakio ani ukandikirwa na ciombe kuthomeka nkurukia gutumira choki ani ugetara kibao no kanjire kuandika na choki akuga A B C D lakini naro tuguye kumenya kioni no gitumike na tukwe narwa njoroge ukirikiriria statement yekwe mudia wenda kuira au ungetaka kuambia wanafunzi aji huko kwa sababu si kitu ya kawaida. Hizi kalamu zingine the ink is water based, so this one is ink based na alafu iko fluorescent. So wakati unaandika ukiangalia kwa hii kioo kuna mwangaza mwingi sana unatoka chini. Wakati ninaandika na hiyo kalamu hapa, hiyo kalamu hiyo rangi ina reflect light. So ndio maana unaona nikiandika na kalamu ya kawaida haionekani, lakini nikiandika na hii kalamu special inaweza kuonekana vizuri. Haya, kuna kitu kingine hata nimenishtua sana. Haya, kwa sababu ina reflect. Nini hiyo sana sana unatumia? Ningetaka sana kuna mtu ambaye anakusikiza akiwa nyumbani. Kuna mtu mwingine mwalimu ako pale anakufuata A B C D. Ni hii kitu likuja nayo Haji ndio sasa uweze kusema si mbao, si chalk, ni kalamu. Ndio inatumika kuandika hiki kibao yako. Hii ni nini? Ningetaka sana ueleze ni nini.
Okay, mimi ni msomi. Kwa hivyo mimi napenda kusoma sana.
Yes.
Kila wakati ambapo niko na muda wa ziada niko kwa vitabu nasoma.
Yes.
So nakumbuka wakati mmoja nilikuwa nasoma nilikuwa nasikiza presenter moja kwa conference moja ya ICT pale Amerika ambaye akataja kampuni moja ambayo inaitwa Revolution Boards na nikaifuatilia, ndio nikapata hii ndio kazi yenye wanafanya. Lakini sasa wakati nilifuata nikakuja ku realize kwamba kununua hiyo set yote kutoka kwao inatumia about 2.8 million. Nikajiuliza it's a good idea, yes, lakini hizo pesa ni nyingi. Kuna venye tunaweza fikiria tutumie local resources tuweze kuproduce kitu kama ile ambayo sasa shule yote ambayo any kind of school can be able to afford. So that's why I came up with this. So hii unaona hapa, hii ni mbao ya kawaida. Hii ni kioo ya dirisha ya kawaida, lakini ni pana kidogo. Hizi lights ambazo unaona hapa tumetengeneza na carton na foil. So kila kitu ambao unaona hapa, most of them are locally made. Hizi stands unaona tumetumia hapa, tumetengeneza na pipes. So this idea, what you're trying to say is that we can use local resources to be able to reproduce a quality innovation na mradi, because we cannot be able to afford it. Hii project yote haiwezi fika hiyo kiwango. So any school can afford, whether it's a day school or a secondary school. But sana sana, I would want colleges to consider. Colleges na universities. Na pia sisemi secondary school as they should not, but the ones with big classes, because the whole idea is to make sure that the learning experience is personal. So for the large classes, this would be very, very appropriate.
Thank you. Haya, Teacher Njoroge, kuna kitu moja nimekuja kugundua. Wanafunzi wanakuanga wakiwa na face saa ile tu unaandika ile kio yako. Kwa sababu hii si kitu ya kawaida. Mimi sijawahi hata kutana na kitu kama hii, mara yangu ya kwanza. Kuenda mpaka Mikombone kuipata. That idea umeanza kuitrain kwa shule yenu au bando, hata bado kuanzia?
So this is the first time we are trying this here in my school. They say charity begins at home. So tumeanza hapa, lakini ningetaka kupartner na Ministry of Education through my employer TSC, so that we can be able to scale this to various schools, and also even to share the lessons that we have learned from this. I've had a lot of support from my fellow colleagues. They have really challenged me. They have really helped me to think. I'm also very, very happy and very happy that we have gotten really good support from the administration of this school, kama vile mlisikia mwalimu mkuu akisema. And so we have learned quite a bit, and I would really love to share this with many other teachers, that it is possible. And for our students, remember, masomo si kusoma tu. Kupita tutapita, because we are bright people. But now the question is, hiyo masomo inakusaidiaje kusolve shida ambayo iko kwa community? So I've always had this challenge, because I'm a student at the moment. Ninatumiaje masomo ambayo ninaipata kusaidia mahali, kusaidia, so how can I solve the problems? How can I use what I've learned to solve problems? So I would encourage even the learners, learn how to solve problems. Don't just pass an exam. Outside here, there are many problems, and you will be paid. Your payment or your salary or your compensation will go in hand with how many problems can you solve.
Mwalimu Njoroge, kuna swali nataka kuuliza moja. Saa hii mwalimu akipiga simu akuite kwa shule yake, utaweza kumfanyia hii maneno yote na halafu muanze kutrainia hapo hapo? It is possible.
It is possible.
Yes.
It is possible.
Yes.
It is possible. We can share, because one of the things we learned is, wakati unaajiriwa kama mwalimu, is that you can work in any school.
Yes.
That is number one. Number two, teaching is more of a calling. So for any school that would be interested in working out something like this, or even better than this, because remember what you were saying, that there are many ways we can improve on this one. This is the first version. And so I'll be willing to assist any institution that will be interested to work out something like this. It is possible, because together as a nation, we have a responsibility to make learning experience more personalized.
Swali yangu ya mwisho sasa, tukimalizia. Kwa sababu kuna wanafunzi wako pale. Mbeleni, kama vile tulianza pale mwisho, nilikuuliza hii kiguni ya kusomea kwa hii nini yako. reaction za wanafunzi itakuwa aje? Kwa sababu bereni ulikuwa unaangalia hivi unaandika na chalk. Saa hii nayo ni kitu ingine. Wanafunzi watakuwa na react aje kulingana?
In fact, let me tell you something.
Yes.
Initially, I thought this